Good morning, and thanks for joining us on the Friday edition of TVC Breakfast. Thank God it's Friday. My name is Veronica Dan Ikboy, and my co-hosts are here. I have Sam Omashe, and we have Mike Okwache. Gentlemen, thank God it's Friday again.
Thank God it's Friday. It's always good to say that. Thank God it's Friday.
But it's not becoming boring to say so.
Okay, what should we say
it's
then?
a cliche now.
I don't know.
But it's really interesting. The point there is, when you picture Thank God it's Friday, you visualize some of the things that make Friday and the weekend really interesting,
Yes,
especially if you have anything lined up in that
Perhaps
way.
activities, time to relax with friends, meet with families, and
Yeah,
all.
exactly.
Except
But
for
it
the
wasn't
traffic.
Thank God it's Friday on the
For
traffic
you.
this morning.
You see, that's what I meant.
Yeah, exactly. So there was this truck with a lot of scraps on it, and then it had, I believe the weight of the scrap was so much, so it tilted over.
Oh, no.
And then even across the road to the other side.
My goodness.
And it created a long queue of traffic. But after that point, everything. In fact, I was reaching out to the
traffic
producer
official
saying,
to ensure that everything
as at the
was
time,
put in
I
place.
think I saw one last mile official, trying to make some calls and so on, But you know how it is. This is rush hour. So if you don't get it, it will take some time for the trucks to come in and so on, But it's fine. After that place, everything clears up. But
it's fine.
The
At least we have
backlog
you
is
here
not
now.
good. But I'm here now.
In one piece.
Exactly.
One thing that gives me joy this morning is that there seems to be a glimmer of hope with regards to justice being done. Just yesterday, we saw the pronouncement of death sentence by hanging for the killer of Iniobong Umorin. He was sentenced to death by hanging, talking about Uduak Akpan. And it seems a lot of people are excited to hear that, that at least something, the family might get some level of closure, although it wouldn't bring Ini back, but then some step is being taken. But if justice is being seen to be done is another question, because there are those who are saying that this guy did not act alone, that there might be other persons that, they have to beam the searchlight on to get them to justice. But again, we must be some level of happiness that justice has been done.
Well, the story is what they call the cause celeb, a case that generates a lot of interest across the land. The thing about the issue of Uduak is that it looks like a collaborative effort, and he is the face of it, and he is going to suffer the consequence of it. The issue of justice is quite another thing. When somebody is sentenced to death by a hanging, we discovered that in most cases, the governors don't sign the death warrant.
Yes.
And I seem to be in league with them. I don't believe in the death sentence as a matter of principle, because I believe you didn't bring the life in, you shouldn't take it. But I believe that the person should suffer while alive. Because when you take the life, it's gone. But if it's alive and is made to wake up every morning to feel the consequence and go through the pain and the torture of having snuffed out somebody's life, is significant for me. The other thing, though, is that even the governors themselves
Have refused
to sign because they feel the same thing. They don't want to be the one to sign off a life.
They don't want any blood on their hands,
They want
perhaps.
blood on their hands. And the death sentence has become unfashionable in the world. All over the world, there's no death. Only in the U.S. is essentially because there seems to be a revanchist spirit among the Christian right or the southern U.S. Places like Texas and Alabama and so on. And they do that. But most of the world has gone beyond that. But there are other ways to really skin a cat.
Right.
Yeah,
Mike.
I think in my own opinion, the governors, trying to, it's just superstitious to say, oh, I don't want blood in my hands. Of course, they won't say it out, but from deductions and interpretations, okay, some of these people, they're very reluctant to sign death warrants. But that's the responsibility of the office. If you have the office of the governor, And in fact, it's also like the chief judge who can sentence anybody to death or sentence any, or, give all of that. You know that the office you're occupying comes with a lot of responsibility.
Absolutely.
As far as keeping the society sane is concerned. So you have to take it. No, but the issue there is, like Sam said, the issue of death sentence is becoming out-fashioned across the world. And I feel that we should also begin to look at these things seriously. If somebody is condemned to death based on what crime or anything the person has committed, you could subject the person or sentence the person to life imprisonment, maybe with hard labor.
With hard labor,
right? So that you
maybe they can flog the person
exactly
10 times every morning.
In the eyes of the law, you no longer exist. So whatever we do with you, hey, in fact, we use the rest of your life to, contribute to society somewhere. If it is to use all of you to build a pyramid of stone or whatever the thing is, or any monument or whatever, because in the eyes of the law, you are no longer in existence. It's better than the death sentence situation.
He was also sentenced to life imprisonment for raping the deceased also. But then again, we see that stemming from what you have said, that we have a lot of persons who have been sentenced to death still in prisons, and that's why we have that number.
So many.
Remember, there's another one. Remember is it 4 or 5 year old who was in school?
Yes,
was,
killed by the proprietor.
By a proprietor,
yes.
And I think it was a collaboration. I don't know what they wanted to do with the child. They have also been sentenced to death.
Yes.
Yes. So we have this going on. It looks like a charade. It looks like a ritual. Sentence them to death.
They're still there. They're still there. Exactly.
The numbers in the prison keeps increasing.
It accumulates, and they occupy the space.
They occupy the space, and then perhaps there is a prison break again, and something happens. So we need to find some solution at the end of the day.
So we feel that there should be an exception to terrorism, to bandits. And my inclination is that they should. I don't know how I can resolve that contradiction within me, but I believe that the bandits and the terrorists should be executed.
In Abuja, where a forum has identified factors that will determine the quality of the 2023 elections. Among them are professionalism of policing agency, the state of security of the country, and the level of interagency cooperation. C4 Nesian has
delivering a free, fair, and credible election within a secure environment is the objective of this forum in Abuja on election security management. The authorities of Nigeria Police have brought together the National Security Advisor, the service chiefs, heads of other security and intelligence agencies to deliberate on how to achieve the goal. Statutorily, the police is the lead policing agency for elections. But the quality and outcome of elections are dependent on factors, some of which are beyond the control of the police.
Whichever way we look at these variables, the reality remains that the Nigeria police is fundamental to the drive to guarantee an internal security space that will be free of threats that could expose our democratic heritage to risk and other conducive enough.
There are two principal desires that we have, namely security and the free, fair, and secure conduct of the 2023 general elections.
For the electoral umpire, the enormity of managing men and resources for the election becomes even more difficult due to evolving security challenges in the country.
Ensuring the safety and security of voters, election personnel and materials, candidates, party agents, observers, the media, and transporters are enormous. This responsibility has become more challenging in the context of the current security situation in the country.
I must reiterate that the President is firmly committed to delivering an election that is completely transparent and which will command the general acceptance of the Nigerian population.
The policing model for the Anambra, Ekiti, and Osun governorship elections is one the police authorities are looking to adopt for the 2023 general elections. While the police is improving collaboration with other security and intelligence agencies, how that effort would result in improved security in the run-up to the election is a big question. Sifon Essien, TVC News, Abuja.
Now, Benue State has a new security outfit codenamed Benue State Community Volunteer Guard. The mission is to complement the efforts of the conventional security apparatus in tackling insecurity in the state. At the inauguration, Governor Otom re-emphasized his resolve not to allow criminal elements take over the state. Mayowa Okwato reports.
Benue State has been one of the red spots identified due to headers on communities, communal crisis, and other forms of crime. As part of measures to tackle the security challenges, the state government has sought the recruitment of community volunteer guards. Here are the first batch of the state volunteer guards. Their training began on the 29th of June 2022 and ended on the 12th of July 2022, with 500 participants drawn from the 23 local government areas. The governor noted the need to revisit the Benue State Vigilante Law of 2000, which was enacted to complement the conventional security agencies in the state to address emerging security issues.
The conventional security agencies in the state to address emerging security issues. The law had to be amended by my administration to pave way for the volunteer guards to assist the conventional security agencies to curb insecurity in Benue State. By the provisions of the new law, the Benue State Community Volunteer Guards can therefore now carry legally approved weapons, which we have duly provided and will provide.
While commending the conventional security agencies in the state for their continued efforts in ensuring peace and security in the state, participants also praises the governor for being proactive in securing the safety of his people.
When you have people from the communities giving you intelligence, you have a better society because they know each person in those communities. So for them to inform you that, look, we have a strange face in our community, it takes a member of that community to identify a strange face.
We are hoping that these young men are going to serve as a supplement, a collaboration with the army, the civil defense, and the police to continue to bring peace to our people so that our people will return to the farms.
Benue State government has procured 30 operational vehicles and 200 communication gadgets to enable volunteer guards function maximally. It therefore appeals to all the good people of Benue State to cooperate with the volunteer guards by providing information that will assist them to discharge their duties, stressing that security is everyone's business. Mayowa Okwato, TVC.
Plateau State Governor Simon Lalong is officially the Director General of the All Progressives Congress Presidential Campaign Organization. The APC National Chairman, Abdullahi Adamu, who led the presidential candidates of the party, Bola Tinubu, and his running mate, Kashim Shettima, to a meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari in his office in Abuja, made the announcement at a briefing. State House correspondent Femi Akonde has details.
It is now common practice for the leadership of the All Progressives Congress to defer to the president on critical decisions and announcements within the party. This time they have come to tell President Buhari about the shape and form the presidential campaign will take ahead of next year's general election. The national chairman of the party, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, announced that the governor of Plateau State, Simon Lalong, is the Director General of the party's presidential campaign, saddled with the responsibility to lead the party to victory at the polls.
The person who is going to be the DG, the Director General of the APC Presidential Campaign Organization, is His Excellency, seated by my left here, Governor Simon Lalong of Plateau State.
We are happy with it. That is why you see the leadership cadre. And we are able to confirm to you that we've had the buy-in of Mr. President, the leader of the party.
the leadership of the APC also puts to rest the controversy about the same-faith presidential ticket. They say the conversation should be about issues and not sentiments, and insists the combination of Asiwaju Tinubu and Kashim Shettima has sent jitters down the spine of the opposition.
I'm not a Christian candidate. I was not nominated as a Christian candidate. The party said I've been nominated because of my ability. You understand? My ability, I'm governor of Plateau. I didn't say I'm governor of Christians in Plateau.
Asiwaju Bola Tinubu has a track record of excellence. If you keep on swapping to throw stones at every dog that barks, you will not reach your destination. We will not threaten insult and lies and mischief. We have established track record of excellence. Let our opponents show what they have done in their respective states. Ladies and gentlemen, let's discuss issues.
This party is well structured. I am sure will not disappoint you.
The national chairman also doused claims that not everyone in the APC has lined up behind the Tinubu-Shettima presidential ticket. He says the APC remains the most favored to get majority votes at the polls.
Every one of us has a duty inherent in his loyalty to the party to stand shoulder to shoulder with our candidate. Any sort of that is sabotage, and we'll treat it as such.
With just about 6 months until the general election, the APC and its presidential campaign team must work hard to show Nigerians what the Tinubu-Shettima ticket brings to the table in terms of ending insecurity, improving the country's economic fortunes, and the general well-being of citizens. Femi Akonde, TVC News, Abuja.
Former Inspector General of Police Mustapha Balogun is dead. According to a statement released by his family, the former Inspector General of Police died on Thursday night after a brief illness. Born on August the 8th, 1947 at Lalong in Osun State, Tafa Balogun was the 21st Inspector General of Police. Tafa Balogun, a fellow of the premier highest military institution in Nigeria, the National War College, was promoted to the position of the Inspector General of Police on March the 6th, 2002. May his soul continue to rest in peace, and God grant his family the fortitude to bear this loss. It's time now to take a look at stories making headlines on Nigerian newspapers. And I begin with this Nigeria newspaper, the Daily Times rather. Oshibajo to military others. We need to be steps ahead of terrorists. Bandits says local production of arms needs to be beefed up. We'll find details of this story on the pages of the Daily Times newspaper. All right, now we'll move to the front page of the Daily Trust. Oshibajo to military. Account for security expenditure. Says security operatives must be ahead of criminals. Canvasses increase in local production of arms. Details on the page of the Daily Trust. To the News Direct now. Insecurity, major shake-up in Nigerian Air Force as Chief of Air Staff charges commanders to intensify fight against terrorists. Details on the pages of the News Direct. To First News newspaper now. Insecurity block Buhari's impeachment again. Gets sacked first. Senators warn Lalong. Vow to commence president's impeachment proceedings September the 20th. All right, away from security matters now to the Leadership newspaper. 6 weeks after running mate discord in PDP, Atiku Wike finally meet to resolve lingering crisis. Details on the front page of the Leadership newspaper. And we move now to Mike. It's over to you.
All right, The Guardian is what I have here for a start. Guardian says Atiku breaks the ice, meets Wike in Abuja. That's what The Guardian has on the front page. And then from there, we have the Punch newspaper talking about the same thing in different perspectives. Wike's camp condemns PDP's anti-South posture, seeks redress. That's what the Punch newspaper has there. And Besides that, let's go to the Nation newspaper. Excuse me. It says PDP can win without Wike. Atiku tells party's BOT regarding 2023. Is quoted here, PDP can win without Wike. Atiku tells party's BOT. All right, that's what he has there. And then let's go to this Nigeria. This Nigeria say alleged organ harvesting. Ekremadu's trouble continues to remain in custody till October 31. Main trial commences 2023. That's what this Nigeria has. All right, national economy. National economy says Nigeria to raise wheat production by 330,000 metric tons as federal government secures $134 million Africa Development Bank loan, mobilizes 250,000 farmers. Okay, that's what the national economy has. There's some ray of hope there. Now, the last one I have here is Business Day, and it says hotels rebound to pre-pandemic levels. Rising costs, inflation seen muting second half. Right? Hotels rebound to pre-pandemic levels. That's what the Business Day has on the front page there. Right? That's all we have.
All right, gentlemen, let's delve into the papers this morning. Aside security matters, where the Vice President is asking questions speaking to the military that they have to be a step ahead with regards to issues regarding the bandits and their attacks across the country. Some other interesting story has to do with the PDP. And we see, if you look at the front page of the Nation newspaper now, 2023, PDP can win without Wike. Atiku, that's the presidential flag bearer of the party, is saying that PDP can win without Wike. And I wonder what you make of this statement coming from the party's flag bearer.
It's very interesting. A number of interesting stories that focus our attention, including what happened in APC yesterday.
Yes,
but
definitely.
the one about Wike meeting with Atiku is breaking the ice. But even if they've broken the ice, the two sides so cold against each other. Because the ice can be broken, but the ice is still cold. Are they cold to each other?
You know, Sam has this thing with words, eh? Yeah, exactly. You could break the ice, but it remains ice and it's cold.
Yes, So broken the ice, because you can see the statement in the lead of the Nation today. It says that APC, PDP can win without Wike. That's why the ice gets colder, because, they are probably meeting, and who knows, will they break the ice? Will there be a melting of the ice?
Okay.
Are they still meeting with glaciers in their hearts? that's a very important question to resolve. And we say you can see also the optics. You know that while this is going on, it's not asking PDP people to come and do the commissioning of his project. It's asking the BOS of Lagos, the governor of Lagos, to come and commission.
Exactly.
And also Wamako, the leader of APC Sokoto, to come and so there are signals there showing that it is still cold on the Eastern Front.
All right. Well, in politics, they say even 1 hour can change a lot of things.
Absolutely.
As it is, from the meeting, at least they have met or they are meeting. And from there, we believe that other things can unfold. Like you talk about the ice. It's possible the ice could melt. Right? Although we were expecting that the meeting of the BOT with Wike would have actually, turned
doused the tension
and turned the thing around.
Yes.
But it didn't make much impact. But the impact may not necessarily also be immediate. It could be, a continuous impact. But the reality is that if you look at the structure of PDP in Nigeria right now, you know that the weight of PDP is in the South-South and then also in the Southeast. And Governor Wike has been the pillar of the political party all the while others went and came back and went, he had remained, he stood, ensuring that the party remained. So anybody who feels that I believe even Atiku Abubakar himself will agree in the corner of his mind that he can't win this election if he doesn't have the buy-in of a person like Wike and the others.
So could it be, you know, that they're just doing what the Yorubas call Ojuaye. They're just showing the face, or what Usman Semben calls the perfidy of eyes and the hypocrisy of rivals. So, you know, when you think that, okay, we are meeting, we are embracing, but we don't really like each other, you know, which maybe you're doing it, as Christians say, to fulfill all righteousness.
But as we speak, I think it's time to just, because we know ego is coming to play, like you gentlemen said the other day, that ego has its place. But then if you want to have a discussion and have a level playing field such that, you know, everybody shifts ground, you have to keep ego aside at some point. Because parties are beginning to put strategies in place. We see the APC, what it did yesterday. It unveiled the DG of the party in person of Simon Lalong, and we see that he is already ready to, you know, go on to push on the campaign as quickly as possible.
Simon Lalong is quite a politician with a very storied credential. You remember that he was Speaker of the State Assembly, and he had a lot of problem with the establishment. In those days when Obasanjo was there and had to take shelter in Lagos, and did fight a good fight. And then he overthrew the PDP in Plateau State as a dark horse, and just came from nowhere and flushed out the generals in the party. I mean, two generals, one in that's Jang, the general, and then Hussaini, both of them in the party. And I kept two of them at each other, fighting each other, knocking heads against each other, and so on. And he has also been head of a Northern Governors Forum, and he has the credential as a lawyer, and so we'll see. He has such a gift of the gab, he knows how to talk, and it will be interesting to have him here to come and talk about how he's going to pilot.
Especially winning the hearts of, you know, there's the issue of the same faith ticket now, and he is a Christian. So let's see how he'll be able to win the minds of those, the Christians, to buy into this
I think
candidate.
it's quite strategic to have Governor Simon Lalong as the DG of the campaign, because if you see him coming from the Middle Belt, and you know the North Central is very strategic, and in political terms, you know, is a collection of a whole lot of different people coming on board. So if the DG of the campaign is coming from Plateau State, North Central, the chairman of the party is coming from Nasarawa State, North Central, their combination can do a lot of sweeping of the North Central votes for APC in that context. You know that if you break all the geopolitical zones in the country, from the numbers we're seeing, the Northwest has produces the highest numbers, and then the Southwest. The next place is the North Central. Right? Yes. So this person is coming together tells a lot as to how strategic the party wants to be in the next election. Now, the issue of same-faith ticket, you know, Lalong is going to be able to permeate and cascade the story through his people when they meet and all of that. Yes. And that's not going to be an issue for them at all, from what I am seeing right now. So it's going to be a good thing for them. So we expect other political parties to also do the same thing.
Well,
that's why PDP, for PDP, we want them to also...
Edino Melaye.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
But we want to see them aligning, you know, we want to see the Labour Party also aligning in that regard. You know, all of this is not necessarily for APC or for PDP it is for Nigeria.
Absolutely.
We want to see a situation where an avid Nigerian politician or an avid Nigerian voter or electorate is very enlightened, and things are moving towards where you can create a level playing field for every electorate to say, okay, based on this and based on this and based on this is what this party is saying, this is what this, and they can make their choices without throwing stones at each other, without decampaigning each other. Just tell us what you want to do. You know, so these are the things we want to see.
In the case of the PDP, looks like the persons, I think Makinde is being tipped to
To be the DG.
DG of Atiku's campaign. And they have also a strategic problem there because they've chosen the candidates from the north. They've chosen the what do you call it? The vice presidential candidate from the south, and they feel compelled to go to the southwest where they are weak to get the head of the campaign, which looks like Makinde. In this case, they are going to a very difficult terrain to do that. So it's kind of a philosophical problem for them to pick somebody from Ashuaju's stronghold to come and be their DG. They are in a situation where they probably will have loved to go to a place where they could make a haul from there, but they have that problem, which the APC doesn't have because of Lalong's faith. The APC is trying to play that down, but it is part of the optics that Lalong is a Christian, is a Catholic, and that could help draw some fish out of the waters. Then we also have the drama of Keyamo versus Dino Belay. A dramatist versus a cerebral thinking man. You know, that also, we'll see how that...
we'll see how it goes. Exactly. All right. Available data from the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, shows that in the 2019 election, youth accounted for 28% votes in the presidential election and 29% votes in the governorship election, despite the large population of youth in the country. It seems Nigerian youth are now ready to change the narrative of all participation in political matters, as recent data from INEC says 75% of newly registered voters are youth. The youth have been making their voices heard, stating that the 2023 general election, especially the presidential election, will be different from the others, as they are ready to use their votes to cause the change they desire. Joining us now is the president and founder, Social Intervention Advocacy Foundation, and CEO, Alliance Media Communications Limited, Segun Awosonya, alias Segalink. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Right. I know you have followed the data, seen the level of numbers. 75%, over 8 million of number of youth were said to have registered to vote in the 2023 elections. Now, talk to us. What, from your point of view, perhaps informed this rise that we see in the numbers?
Yeah, thank you very much. If you hear most of the youth speak, they will tell you that we want to use the spirit of the NSAS, to apply ourselves and contribute to the political process by ensuring that the demands of the youth, of the people, which is the youth, which has the highest number of population in terms of making up the 70% of Nigerian population today, that they want to make their voice heard and they want to do something about that. And with that, political awareness over the years, if you look at from 2015 down till date, has increased because of the willingness of the youth to participate in political issues, because they know how it has impacted them across socio-political strides. So with that, you were seeing more people willing to pay the price and to go through the hurdles of getting involved in that process. But again, apart from the numbers, because in this climb, we are used to the semantics, we're used to the optics other than the substance. I, for one, believe that, well, the outcome is good in terms of more registrations. Again, but the most important thing to me as someone who is partly driving this force is the commitment to the finishing of that desire. And number one, and secondly, the mindset, the why and the hows within that particular drive. It is not just about we rising in numbers to say we want to do something. Because when you want to look for the truth, really, you don't count heads. It is not about the numbers. It's about the reason and rationale behind that particular drive. Are we looking at participating in election and making critical decisions that will actually bring about change? Or is it just for the optics of, oh, here we are, we're a crowd, we're a mob, and we are doing something, regardless of the quality of what we're doing as against the quantity of people doing that particular thing. So it takes more. There's still time for that energy to be channeled towards the change that we love to see. For example, the youth coming together to say, we are actually using this election as a referendum to the powers that be, that things will not continue to be the norm as usual. This is not about tearing down, the institutions or tearing down things that are more or less cultural and more or less structures of the state that actually defines us as a people. But it's about showing our capability to use innovation, to apply our education, to bring about the kind of change that we hope to see, so that the society will actually mirror us in the here and the now when compared to the Committee of Nations. So this is exactly where my personal drive is all about, and that's the mindset behind the NSAS advocacy itself, which brought about the awareness of youth participation in politics.
Right.
The numbers, 78% or 75%. It looks big, but it's about 8 million. And when you look at the total number of votes, it's about 96, it's over 96 million. 8%, 8 million is not even up to 10% of the total number of votes. Are we making too much of it, given that even the majority of those who will vote, given even the statistic, it's still not the youth?
Well, no, the way I want to put it, I wouldn't want...
Because sometimes statistics, I said numbers like words or like beauty is in the eye of the beholder. That sometimes when we look at figures, we tend to overplay it. Because when we look at the 75%, it turns out to be 8 million, it's not up to 10%. And even the 10%, that 10%, we're not even sure that they will get 75% of that 75%, if I make sense.
I get what you're trying to say, but we must not underestimate that drive. And this is why I say so. It is not just about the numbers. Think of the influence. We live in a post-modernistic environment now, which means we're not actually seeing things the way they are on the surface. We're looking at the in-depth. For example, you don't buy things simply because you saw a billboard. You buy things simply because of the influences around that particular product. If you're somebody you've trusted for over 20 years, 30 years tells you, oh, this toothpaste is good, it makes you grow more teeth. So you basically want to buy it because of the recommendation, not because of the advert you saw or because of the billboard. When you're looking at that percentage that seems small, think of the influences of that percentage. Think of the people who are dependent on this youth for income. Think of the people who are actually inspired by these people who are making this drive. They are going to influence a lot of things.
Those youths are actually those who are influenced rather than those who are influencers.
But the issue about influence and
yeah, because many of them don't even have jobs. Many of them don't have. Many of them are in the homes of their parents. So they tend to be more under influence than being influencers.
Well, the thing is this: when you look at it this way, like I said earlier, I said we're in a postmodernistic environment, and to postmodernism itself, it is about the simulation of the simulation. In other words, people prefer, rather than face reality, which looks like spikes to their bubble, they rather want to see the world through the eyes of other people, which is what happened before we became modernized, where people go to concerts to watch movies that talks about stage plays that talks about a society and culture. They tend to look at paintings of famous artists that picture the world in a certain way. So the same way right now, people are trying to see the world because of the modernism now, because of we have a lot of technologies, means through which different things can be seen from different perspectives. So to be able to say this is actually the real position of things is always very difficult, because you have an explosion of meaning, out there. And for the youth who are easily impressionable, for the youth who are easily influenced, they get to,
you agree they get influenced.
Yeah, well, they get influenced, but they also influence.
Among themselves, they don't influence, they can't influence the bigger population. The influence is actually in their own bubble.
I would not say, like I said, I will not underestimate the drive.
I'm not saying that you should underestimate.
Yes, what I'm saying that number you are saying It's just like you saying, oh, look at the size of a grenade. It's so small compared to the large number of people we have here. If that grenade goes off, we will all be impacted.
Yeah, but the grenade is not the same thing as the bunker buster.
At the same time, again.
I guess they are getting to that.
Yeah, we're getting to that. But the other question, sorry, Veronica, the other question I want to have you been able to break down this in terms of geography, these numbers, this 8 million in terms of geography, and then look at the bigger picture of youth, other than this 8 million, those who have already registered in the past. Do you have that figure?
The issue is this, when you're looking at numbers and when you're studying human behavior, you see the psychology of Nigerians, the reason why we make decisions, most of them are not rational. They are more or less influenced certainly by some semantics, certainly by certain socio-cultural, events and the rest and all. So we must not cast in stone what has happened before. Oh, APC has so numbers, PDP has so numbers.
No, that's not my question. My question is...
I understand what I say, that what are the expectations from these numbers?
No, not expectations. No, what is the demographic?
Demographic.
For instance, when you say 8 million, how many from the north? How many from the southeast? How many from south-south? How many from the southwest? That's what I mean. Middle belt.
Yeah,
and so how are they spread?
Yes.
These numbers. And then you compare them to what we already have. We had about 84 million in 2019.
Yeah.
Now, what's this spread compared to that spread of the 84 million?
I don't have the specific figures, but from what I saw, I've gone through those figures before, and I don't think it's skewed to a particular region. I think it's a general thing. the spread is quite encouraging.
Even.
Yes, quite even. Yes, in the northwest, north central, northeast, southeast, southwest, we have significant new entrants into the political participation that falls into the demographic of the youth. So whether the regional skew or the regional spread itself it does not really speak to the decision that people are going to make. But again, you understand also that young people actually behave along the same pattern. So which is why one of the reasons why we need. The only
the answers, they didn't behave in the same pattern. Why they were saying that they didn't want NSAS here, those in Plateau and in the north, they said they love NSAS.
I will explain why. No, I will explain why.
They love SARS, that they wanted it. So it became a national division.
It wasn't a dichotomy and it wasn't a divide. And I will say this, because for every action you see or anything you see out there, you need to trace the pathology of that particular outcome. And the pathology of that decision that you are seeing as a dichotomy is just to show you the extent of work that has been done in the north and the south. And also to show you the traditional and cultural differences between the notion or training of the people in both regions. And I explain this. The activity or the advocacy in the north, as it were, actually went through institutional corridors whereby police and the structure itself were the kind of changes we have in the north were so different from the ones we have in the south. And the experience of the northern youth with the police were different from what we have here.
Exactly. So
it wasn't an happenstance. So because of things that have been
that's what I'm saying, that they're not the same.
So so they are saying they don't want to end SARS. Does not mean they did not acknowledge the fact that there are institutional issues.
Yeah, but they saw it differently. They saw it differently.
Well, we all have different experiences.
That's what I'm saying. Then you said they're all going to...
But it wasn't a division.
Yeah.
All right. Let's stay on the matter now. Because my concern has to do with the issue of the drive that you mentioned earlier, because sustaining it to the end and achieving a result that youth can, boast and say that we achieved something. Yeah. At least we cut our teeth for something. Now, because when you look at the NSAS matter, we saw how it ended at the end of the day. And yes, perhaps that could have triggered what we are seeing now. But when you look at the elections in Osun and Ekiti State, we didn't feel as much impact of the youth in this election. What you see are the middle-aged and the aged coming out to vote. And the question is, where really are these people that, we hear are making the noise on social media? Yeah. It's beyond that. You need to be part of the process. And now we are heading towards a presidential election and other elections come 2023.
Yeah, you ask a very wonderful question, and I would like to answer it both from the cultural perspective and from the enlightened perspective, and also where we are. This is a journey. We cannot say, oh, because of the outcome of Ekiti and Osun, that the drive that the youth are talking about or they are drumming for, should be defined or can be defined.
But that should have been perhaps a starting point.
Yes, and that's why I said this is a journey, and the journey does not end in. You can't judge the journey from the beginning. And I say this respectfully because where we are now, when you look at there's something called the OODA loop. The OODA loop speaks to, number one, the observation of what we have on ground. That is the collection of data, analytics of that particular data that we're looking at. When you look at the orientation of that particular data, which speaks to framing the data in the context of trying as much as possible to get as much as we can from that data to be able to say, this is what we have gathered. This is based on our education. This is what we have seen. Based on our knowledge, this is what we have. Based on culture, this is what we can decipher from there. Then you now move into the decision-making thing, the strategy. Right now on the journey of the youth's awareness, they have shown that they are interested in participating in the election, meaning you are not going to see a poor turnout. At the end of the day, they've collected their PVC, they've gone through the motions and the rest. Now, we are at the point where they are educating themselves on how to get involved. It is not about joining a political party or picking a demigod for themselves to say this is who we are going to worship. It is about looking at their impact itself, the end goal of the impact. Like, I will still come to the issue of how NSAS ended up, because I want to know whether it's the NSAS advocacy you're talking about or the youth perception of what they have done, their own participation in it. So I will tie the whole thing together. So where they are now is at that point where they are putting things together. They've seen the outcome in Ekiti, a state that we know has been producing professors for years. And at the end of the day, the turnout of the election and the people who participated majorly went into a transaction. They sold their votes majorly. Because when you have
from your point of view, evidence of that.
From your point of view,
you have no evidence of that at all.
From your point of view, because we can't make
you don't have any that claim
here.
That the majority word
majorly. We have people
so that we do not
who monitored the election. And we got the report from different places. And there were evidence of transactional.
There were evidence of how big was it? That's it enough to tilt the election. That issue has been raised.
If you don't have that evidence right now.
That's what I'm saying. The numbers are out there, and the truth is always out there. Right. So what I'm trying to say now is, because of the outcome of Osun and Ekiti, we cannot conclude to say, oh, these are just noise. Because there is still room. We have months to go before the election for them to begin to weaponize their involvement in this election by saying we are focusing on competence, we are focusing on conscientiousness, we are focusing on capacity, we are focusing on, and besides, beyond the presidential election, we're also looking at those who are stampeding to power at the Senate and at the House of Representatives.
But it seems they are not looking at that. They are just focused on the presidential election.
You see, what I'm saying is, this is a journey. I will be the last person that will write off the youth of Nigeria.
We are not writing them off.
We should not overstate.
We should manage our expectations.
Yes, that's what
I
I'm
understand.
saying. We should not overstate.
That is why.
Because even in the U.S., during the election for both Trump, the one that Trump won, and Biden, the issue of youth registration was also a factor. And they said, oh, the youths were going to really make a difference. But it's the same thing. When it came to the brass tacks, the number, well, ticked up, but not by much.
That is
because there's also the youth have they are more interested in the flare. F-L-A-I-R than the F-L-A-R-E, the flare, the fire than the...
Well, I believe that
the optics.
What we are saying now actually is a challenge to the youth to begin to recalculate their coordinates, to begin to strategize. They should prioritize strategy other than the spectacle.
When you say they should strategize, how do you strategize? During the NSAS, they didn't do much of it. The
NSAS protest.
Hold on. The NSAS protest. Yes. Well, that's what you mean when we say NSAS.
No, that's not what the NSAS means.
No. When people say NSAS, sometimes you use what they call synecdoche, that a part represents the whole. You know, somebody say NSAS. People at some point, people generally to mean, okay, the NSAS generation, the NSAS people, the NSAS. Anyway, you know what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
And what I'm saying is that they started and the whole thing looked very good. And when it got to the crunch, there was no leadership, there was no coordination, there, so on. And then the dross of the youth, the scum of the youth took over from the cream of the youth. You can imagine how you have a good piece of cake, and you pick a cake, and a child comes in and vomits, a baby comes in and vomits on top of it. That is what happened to the NSAS protest. So when you are talking about they moving together, they have to be coordinated. They don't have anything. They couldn't even, I thought that given the enthusiasm they had that time, by this time, they could have organized something like a political movement or a party or something like that. We're not seeing it.
Sir, let me correct something. I spoke about postmodernism earlier.
You are so interested in that word.
No. It
means a lot of things.
I know, it is impacting us. It is impacting us because what you're seeing now is a mirage of what is real. And what is real, which I will give to the youth of this nation, was the fact that what has been left redundant for over 90 years, Police Act, was fixed because of the youth participation. Today we have Police Act 2020, before the protest. So a lot of things were achieved by the coordination and collaboration of the youth before the protest. The protest was just a means of the youth putting flesh in the game by saying, we are not just dialoguing because we are weak. We are not just dialoguing and meeting people and engaging the authorities because we don't know how to come out and take over the streets. They did that, and of course, in everything, there are extremist views to things. You understand?
So the thing was taken over. They started burning things.
We understand, and we condemn that.
Right.
So that's how it ended. That was it. They said,
that's how the protest ended.
All is well that ends well. Didn't end
the
well.
protest
For us
is
not
a different
to focus our attention on EdSAS because we have to. The focus is on the youth and their participation in the election.
The youth.
How can they build on these numbers to achieve?
That's why I used a model, a framework.
Yeah.
And that framework was designed to be able to help people to take action in crisis situation, which means you need to observe. When you collect data, analyze the data, you also need to orient that data by framing it, with your education, with your knowledge, taking cognizance of culture, and then being able to say, this is how we're going to go about it by making a decision, strategizing, and then taking our strategy to test by putting actions behind it. I believe the youth of the nation will make us proud in this election. I believe they will refocus their energy and strategize, and I believe they will be able to say, this is the end result of the Nigeria of our dreams based on our participation, having taken a cue from what we have heard, the challenges thrown at us, even on TVC News.
Do you think that from what you have seen, do you think they have the capacity to do all of this that you have mentioned, strategizing? Because when it comes to the Nigerian politics, you have to be really strategic to get anything you want to get.
As I said earlier on, I will not conclude now because this is still a journey. And I believe that if you do not train them, you don't blame them. If we get involved, those people who can actually engage the youth. Right now, they are throwing tantrums, they are abusing people, they are doing all sorts of things. Some of them are even misguided and the rest. But I think this is based on their experiences, where they are allowing their emotions to cloud their judgments and all. But that phase will pass. When they know what is at stake, when they know the fact that 2023 is critical to nation building, is critical to the growth of this nation, is critical to job creation, is critical to security, is critical to quality education, is critical to the unity of Nigeria in its diversity, then they will begin to see things in a different light. And I think we all need to be involved in guiding their energies.
How involved are you?
I'm very involved because I can never stop getting involved. I'm a father, I'm a parent, I'm a leader, and I'm a citizen of this country. Regardless of where we go, we have the noble places like Nigeria.
Okay.
So
we have 96%, 96 million.
Yes.
What is the percentage of youth in the 96 million?
We need to probably examine INEC record.
We don't know that yet.
We don't know that yet. But again, you know that the energy of this country lies in the hands of people between the ages of 18 and 35.
Mm-hmm.
And they are the ones that...
But the electoral experience all over the world has shown that demographic is not the majority that votes. The majority is usually between 40. And upwards, 75. Those are the people that really vote. So the energy may be there, but
it shows there's a missing link. Something is missing.
Something is missing, which is going to be filled over time.
You know, there's this Chinese proverb that says that when I was old, I didn't have the strength. When I was young, I didn't have the wisdom. So it looks like they have the strength, but we hope they will show the wisdom.
That is why we're saying that nation building involves the wisdom of the old and the energy of the youth. There are people who are matured, who are educated, who are enlightened within that gap, and they will do the needful to be able to direct and channel the energies of the rest.
I really admire your enthusiasm.
The youth participation, their capacity, and all of it, and the fact that you mentioned that they throw tantrums and just make certain things, make certain statements on the social media, which can be termed as cyberbullying, especially at this period. And one wonders what that means for you, for youth that you are hoping or believing that will be able to do something or deliver in the 2023 election, who are throwing all these tantrums.
You see, when people have, we have a lot of people within that fold, who believes it's an opportunity for them to throw their hands in the air and act as though they don't care, and it's an opportunity for them to show that, we're on the bandwagon and we're going to, maybe gain followers and gain a notoriety or establish our notoriety through this particular thing. And they did it during the NSAS as well. And because of this misguided few, most of whom have been traced to different hate groups in the country. And I will know because I've been there. I've been at the crosshairs of these people before. And I've written a lot of things about it, even in the papers, in the national papers. And I felt that when you're running for political office, you are not a superstar, neither are you a celebrity. You are a leader who is offering himself for service to the people. And when you do that, you carry on your leadership strides by influencing the kind of, or the mood of the support that you get. It is within your power because it is because of you, or probably connected to you, the attraction or the support is based on what you stand for. So if you see element of things that your campaign movement does not represent, you have the right and the duty to stand up to say, this is not what we are for. This is not what we stand for. We are not dividing the nation. We are bringing people together. And we cannot continue in this strife. If you see anybody doing things like A, B, C, D, E, they don't represent us. By the time you disown them and you distance yourself from such, people will begin to seek the understanding. And they will begin to say, no, this man doesn't stand from this. They will begin to support you, even based on the stance you've taken, which could actually cost you support. Mm-hmm. And that is exactly what I did during the NSAS, by saying, no, this is going out of line. This is not what we are created for. This is not what this thing was designed for. And this is not what I'm going to stand for. So, and I risk the chances of losing face at that time if I'm doing it for popularity. Right. But it wasn't for popularity, it was for substance. Yeah. So now when I see people in the name of politics turn a political movement into an identity politics of hate, seeking to divide the nation, creating a semblance of division, ethnic, us versus them and the rest, then he speaks to something different. It shows we actually don't hate tyranny. We just hate the fact that it's not our man that is, oppressing us.
There was one time during the John McCain quest for the presidency when there was a racial moment in the campaign when he started saying, who is Barack Obama? Who is Barack Obama? And people saw some ethnic reverberations inside what he was saying. And then it caught up with his followers. And one woman came and started, and also a young man who turned out to be a black man, started saying terrible things about Obama. John McCain withdrew and came on television to say Obama is a nice man. So in a sense, he held down the capacity of that group to go out of control. That's the kind of thing we need. And you are talking about it happened during the time. The opposite happened during the nationalist struggle between Zeke and the Zikist movement, that Zik had to disown his own movement at one time. Because he thought that they were going about. Some people said he was disowning it because he was being cowardly. He didn't want to stand for the truth. Well, that is a matter for historical analysis. But in your own role, how do you tell these people it is good to vote, it's good to come out to vote, but it's good to do everything? The Bible says, do everything orderly, in decency and in order. So how do you navigate moving vote? Because these are young people. Youth is a time, according to Plato, youth is a time for every extraordinary toil.
Yeah.
Actually,
the thing is, we just have to be more tolerant. If you want them to be tolerant, you have to be tolerant also to them, because a lot of them, when you hear from them, I was on a forum earlier on where someone came to me to say, Mr. Sega, we appreciate what you're doing. Don't mind all the tantrums being thrown at you. Don't mind it's not hate. It may look like one. All the tantrums they are throwing it at you because they respect you. They regard you. They know you stand for something. They are not calling out their parents, who is not even known, who has no name out there, who has no name recognition. They are calling you out because your name is out there. You have a column in the newspaper. People listen to you when you speak, and they hope that you are going to at least see from their own perspective. So we need to show tolerance to an extent of saying, I feel you, I hear you, I understand what you're saying, but can we at least, rather than telling a child to stop throwing stones because of the danger it might cause, why don't you direct that child and say, aim at that? So that's precisely what they need now, understanding and inclusiveness.
Yeah, how do we do that? How do we do that? Because in today's world, there are so many fora. There are people who live in a bubble.
Exactly.
If you are in the social media, you can believe that the group you are in represents the whole world, whereas you are just a little part of the whole piece. And let everybody know. People tend to be talking at each other rather than talking with each other. And how do we get to that point? Because it's getting to a situation where we need some kind of leadership, and that starts from the political society actually, and the political leaders to say this is how we should go, this is not the way we should go, and so on.
When you say political leaders, I would like to extend it a little bit by including those we regard as those who are the custodians of societal behavior, which includes yourself. So people respect and people listen to, who have some form of influence. I'm talking about real influence now, not the bubble of social media. Social media people often believe that everybody on social media is their mate. Everybody on social media know what they know, and anything they don't know doesn't exist. So with that, you need to understand where they are, and then education, with the cutest, the most reserved patience that you can ever muster as a father, as a leader, and also while you are encouraging other people, our pastors, the people who own churches, the people who are in the mosque, the people who are religious leaders, musicians, entertainers. These are people that people listen to. When they begin to speak the same language, if we sing from the same hymn book, we can fix the problem that we're seeing today.
I remember I had an instance, there was an instance in which somebody called me and he said, I just saw on Twitter one young man who abused you. I had to call him. He said, who are you? This guy, I know you. Who do you know who you are insulting because you have a platform? You can go and insult him. Then another person also actually replied the other person who she knew on the social media, and she said, do you know who you are insulting? I know who you are. Why are you doing that? You get a sense that the social media is breaking down our culture.
Well,
with the youth, yes.
It can be seen as that because a lot of people who are more or less adults, who are more or less educated, who are more or less exposed, who are more or less enlightened, when they see those tantrums, they avoid it. They don't want to be abused. They don't want to be insulted.
But not only the youth that do it. No, a lot of older people do it. I've seen older people use very terrible language, abusive language.
It shows the limitation of the exposure.
People are over 50.
It shows the limitation of the exposure. Yeah. Because when you understand the fragility of our nation right now, you will know that it is worth the sacrifice for people who have seen, who can see the end from the beginning, to begin to see how they can actually solve that crisis. Because in crisis, opportunities are abound. So we need to be more tolerant. Because there's no how we can pack most of these people away and then disenfranchise them and say they are no longer citizens of this country.
Not at all.
So we have to continue to engage with patience. I am a victim of a lot of these things. And I'm sure a lot of people will be wondering, why is Sega speaking like this? This is an opportunity to use your moral cudgel to break the head of a few people. But you see, at times you realize that a time will come when we will not have this opportunity to speak to Nigerians using this kind of forum, and we will have children who will walk this earth when we're not alive.
Absolutely.
Do we need a conference? Do
we
need a conference, something like political parties coming together to talk about
that must happen across board. All political parties and their leaders.
Social media to Nigerians.
All right. Yes. And make use of it as an opportunity for political parties too.
Yeah.
Right, so we have to leave the conversation here now. President and founder, Social Intervention Advocacy Foundation and CEO, Aliens Media Communication Limited, Segun Awosonya Segalink. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
On the program.
Thank you, ma'am.
Segalo.
Segalink.
Segalink. Some people used to talk about Sagalo.
More than a century after British troops pillaged the Nigerian stole artifacts from the Benin Kingdom, these artifacts are now being returned to their ancestral homes in batches from different European countries. In February, 2 bronze works, the head of an Oba and the statue of a cockerel, were returned to the palace of the Oba of Benin Kingdom by the British Museum. Some other artifacts have also been handed over to the government of Edo State, headed by the state governor Godwin Obaseki. Where these artifacts should be kept is now a bone of contention. Some groups have rejected Governor Obaseki's plan to build a museum where the artifacts would be kept. They say the palace of the Oba of Benin Kingdom is the ancestral home of the artworks, and as such, they must be kept in the palace. Joining us via Zoom is a former Vice Chancellor of the University of Benin and Professor of History, Professor Benson Osadolo. Good morning. Thanks for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Morning. Prof, can you give us a sense of the significance of these artifacts that are now in the news? The artifacts being brought from different parts of Europe, from the UK, from Germany, and a few other places.
Before I do that, let me just quickly correct the identity given to me by TVC. I was the immediate past Vice Chancellor, acting Vice Chancellor of Abuja University, not University of Benin. And I'm Professor of History, University of Benin. Thank you. We are looking at the Benin artifacts, as we call them now, rather art objects, as they also refer to elsewhere. Some cases, they are referred to as the Benin sculptures. And these works of art, as they are now known in contemporary times, comprise of very significant and historic artworks made from bronze, made from ivory, made from iron, made from wood and terracotta. And all of these objects were produced under the royal command of the Oba of Benin over 600 years ago. And these objects, as they were, they are very unique today, very unique objects of arts, admired for its technical sophistication and the civilization that produced. Today, the objects have become issues in international debate of repatriation as well as restitution. To understand the value and significance of the Benin art objects, we must understand the purpose for which they were produced in the first instance. Number one, for rituals, for ceremonial purposes, and for historical documentation in terms of the events and personalities, the nobles that served in the court of the Benin monarch over the past 700 years or thereabout, when these artworks were now produced. And so it has a great significance when it comes to understanding the material culture of Benin history, understanding the history of Benin itself, understanding the society itself. In fact, all the artifacts, thousands in their numbers, recorded different aspects of Benin history, Benin politics, Benin society, Benin culture, Benin economy. It's all of this today that have been scattered all over the world. I mean, it's like taking a book and distribute the chapters and pages all over the world. For example, there are 5,000 of these objects that have been identified in public space in 124 museums all over the world, in 20 countries all over the world. And so this is the story of a great nation, a great people, the Benin's, whose history have been scattered all over the world. And so we are trying to say, look, let us look at these artifacts that represents our heritage, that represent our pride, that represents all that we stand for in contemporary times in terms of world civilization. That is what this artifact represents.
All right. And that is why perhaps some have said that generations have lost incalculable history and cultural reference as a result of their absence. But will their return connect the people to have a sense of history?
Yeah, of course, the return, not just return, that is the repatriation and the restitution. Of course, it's going to connect the identity of our people with the past. A lot of people do not yet understand deeply the history of Benin as it is presented in Western or so historiography. We need to tell our story. Let our own voices tell our story. In this case, it is the material culture of Benin that will tell its own history and story about the past. The greatness of a kingdom, the greatness of the Benin Empire, the influence of that empire. The people have to know about this. And why were the Europeans interested in these artifacts? Because even European arts and culture, from the beginning of the Renaissance up to the present day, did not seem to match with the technical sophistication of the Benin artwork. It was produced under royal command. There was a government behind, there was a political system behind the production. There was a society organized to produce it. There were materials. We had values. We define our values in terms of production, and it's reflected in all of this. That is why returning of these artifacts is going to greatly enhance the identity of our Benin people in terms of the linkage with the past, the present, and the future.
All right, Professor, some of these artifacts stolen since 1897. That's over close to about 120 years ago. Now,
yes.
The return at this time around, everyone would expect that there should be a festival, a jamboree, a celebration of the fact that these things are coming back home. But we tend to see a controversy between the governor and the palace regarding when they return, in whose custody should they be, and where particularly should they be resident. Can you help us make sense of this?
All right. The issue of repatriation did not start today. It started shortly after Nigeria regained independence in 1960, when on the National Commission for Museums and Monuments, which now became a federal agency, began to also demand for most of these looted artifacts from Nigeria. However, in the case of the Benin artifacts, there have been ongoing debates. There have been issues in those debates about their repatriation and restitution. But it was at the Vienna conference in 2007, in which I was a participant, that actually reintroduced the debate on repatriation. And shortly after the Vienna conference, or exhibition of Benin, there were other exhibitions on the same objects in Paris, in Berlin, and Chicago. Honestly speaking, I had the opportunity to see the exhibition in Chicago in 2008. However, a few years later, which was about 2010, the Benin Dialogue Group was formed to handle the issues of the debates related to repatriation as well as restitution. This dialogue group, listen carefully, it was made up of the consortium of European museums. It was also made up of representatives of the Edo State government. It was also made up of the Benin Royal Court. It was also made up of the National Commission for Museums and Monuments. This was the Benin Dialogue Group. And the first meeting was 2010 in Vienna. Subsequent meeting was held in Berlin in 2011 and in Benin City in 2013. An effort was made for the British Museum in London to host the conference. In 2014, they refused. And it was again in 2018 in the Netherlands that the Benin Dialogue Group met again to discuss what to do in terms of the return of these art objects.
We're trying to find out from you, why is there some controversy surrounding the return where the artifacts should be kept instead of having a celebration?
You know, I see the point, you have to establish a basis for the preservation of these artifacts. I was talking about the Benin Dialogue Group, which emerged from the 2010 Vienna conference and series of meetings that we had in Berlin 2011, Benin City 2013, and of course, the failure of the British to host the museum in 2014. And of course, for 4 years, there was the inactivity of the Benin Dialogue Group. The group met again in 2018. That is the most important thing about the question you have asked. The group met in 2018 in the Netherlands and then had a proposal, one of which was to build the Benin Royal Museum within 3 years for the purpose of keeping these artifacts safe. And all of this was agreed to by the Edo State government, by the Consortium of European Museums, by the Benin Royal Family or the Benin Royal Court, as well as the National Commission for Museums and Monuments in Nigeria. However, in 2019, after the Netherlands conference of 2018, the group met again in Benin City. And I was at that meeting, in which it was agreed that the whole idea and concept, the design, the project that concerns the Benin Royal Museum should be given an urgency. However, the following year, there was this coronavirus. And by 2020, coronavirus, 2021, a new concept emerged, which is the MOA concept initiated by some group of persons that were not even directly related to the Benin Dialogue Group. But that's the most astonishing aspect of this development. The MOA is actually a project which has to do a Museum of West African Art. It's a brilliant idea. I have nothing against it at all. But the museum has been conceived by Legacy Restoration Trust of Nigeria in concert with the British Museum and one Ajayi Associates, in which the Royal Court of Benin was completely sidelined. The owners of the artifacts, they were completely sidelined. And what I read in the papers, and I find it very disgusting, is that the MOA project was now inviting the Oba of Benin as a partner. And then, see, they wanted a partnership with the British Museum, those who have looted the heritage, so that they can re-loot it again. And it's wrong. Our thinking, our own views about all of this is that the Benin Royal Museum, which was the initial concept arising from the Netherlands Conference of 2018, should continue to be the custodians of these artifacts. The Emowa project should run on its own lane and not be the custodian of these royal arts of Benin. It belongs to the Royal Court of Benin, the Oba of Benin. In fact, the artworks were made by the royal command of the Oba. So it does not belong to Emowa. It does not belong to Ajayi Associates. It does not belong to Legacy Restoration Trust. It belongs to the Royal Court of Benin. To try to say they are inviting the Oba of Benin to be partners in the custodianship of these artifacts is an insult. It's an attempt to humiliate the institution of monarchy in Benin City. And many people are already saying, no, that's wrong. We should understand the Benin tradition, understand the Benin history, understand the Benin culture, and respect it. No one is against their project. They can run their project the way they want to run it, but not begin to humiliate the Royal Court of Benin because of this project. We stand by the decisions of the proposals of Netherlands Conference of 2018 to build the Benin Royal Museum, and that is our concern. This was supported by the conference in Benin in 2019. That is our concern. If by 2021 and 2022, there's a MOWA project, is out of the way. The MOWA is not part of the ownership of this royal arts of Benin. And even bringing them, of course, there are other issues involved. Let us look at the historical and legal context of keeping these artworks. Historically, they belong to the Royal Court of Benin. They belong to the Oba of Benin. They've been looted. You see, there are a number of issues involved in the looting. First, the British invaded Benin. They conquered Benin. They plundered the city. They looted the artworks, over 5,000. And then they burnt the city. Half of the city was completely burnt. That is colonial injustice. It was done to the palace and the people of Benin. So today, we're asking for repatriation and restitution. And then you are bringing a group of people who do not understand the history of Benin to come and be the custodian. On what basis? That's my point. So please, I don't understand why some individuals are worried about who keeps them or does not keep them. They are the property of the Oba of Benin, and they should go straight to the Benin Royal Museum. They have agreed to build this museum in 2018, within 3 years. But today, the project is yet to take off. So what has happened? Are there individuals frustrating the palace or frustrating the Benin Royal Museum or frustrating the effort to repatriate these objects and pay restitution to the palace of the Royal Benin? Are there individuals? If there are, what is their goal?
Prof, it is interesting that you're... Hello?
Yes.
It's interesting that you have made that point. Many say it is because Governor Obaseki himself is not in the same book with the present royalty that this is happening. And this is traced back to the invasion itself, and that it is a fight between the Obaseki, a historic fight, let me say historical fight, between the Obaseki family and the royalty and the royal family. And this issue of the artifact is just another tough war to reflect that atavistic tension.
Well, I think there is no connection between it at all in historical context. And those who work with the British for 17 years after the fall of Benin, before the kingship was restored in 1914. It has nothing to do with it. If there was power tuxedo, power play, power reconfiguration at that particular period, there was nothing, it has nothing to do with present day royalty and those in government. Honestly speaking, if you take the Benin monarchy from Edo State, the Benis are no more. So we reverence our Oba, we respect our Oba, we honor him, and to a large extent, we worship the Oba in Benin. We know who he is. He's Omonoba Nedu Bolo. The one on the throne now is Oba Eware II Nogidiga. And I don't think he can begin to discuss issues that are irrelevant to Obaseki monarchy family. Nothing like that at all. The truth of the matter is that from the very beginning, Governor Obaseki himself, he was involved in the Benin Dialogue Group. He sent state representatives to Benin Dialogue Group. He hosted Benin Dialogue Group. The first host 2010. Second hosting in 2019. They all agreed that now why the deviation from Benin Royal Museum to a different idea entirely? Okay, let us look at those behind Emowa, which is the Dome Museum of West African Art. It has its own brilliant concept, but they should not begin to contest the ownership of the artifacts with Benin. That's my point. It has nothing to do with whether there's fight between the Benin monarchy and Obaseki family. That's not correct. That one is past is past. It's history that is past. We're only today learning from that history. No one contends with the Oba and survives it. So we don't want to go into all of that. But what we are saying clearly, and it's very, very obvious to all of us, is that there's a sense of betrayal with this new development. The Omonoba of Benin, Oba Eware II, has been betrayed. Because from the very beginning, we all agreed that there will be a Benin Royal Museum. Then why the sudden change? That is betrayal.
All right.
That can also lead to mistrust and distrust. Listen carefully. Mistrust and distrust among people who think that they have the power to do whatever they want to do. All power in government today is temporary. The Oba of Benin is permanent until the Almighty God says it is time.
All right.
So let us begin to learn something very clear. Listen carefully, sir. Very clear. Now, who are those that establish the Legacy Restoration Trust? Who are those that establish it? Was it the palace? Was it the state government? Who are those called Ajayi Associates? Is it related to the palace or the state government? The British Museum that looted, that collected the loot, are they part of it? And then you are asking again that those who looted it, the British, who looted it, who refused to participate in all of these meetings, will not be the ones advising us on how to keep our return. If you look at the history of the world today, the Benin artifacts are valued in billions of US dollars. They're highly priced. And all of this belong to the Royal Court of Benin, not to Restoration Legacy Trust, not to British Museum, not to Ajayi Associates that have established this MOA, and they are calling the Oba of Benin. It's an insult to the Benin monarchy.
All right, Professor
Partner with them.
we need to manage our time quickly. We need to ask you, we still have some questions we need to ask.
No problem.
Can you hear me, Professor Sadler?
Yes.
Right.
I can hear you clearly.
Okay. Now, in March 2021, one of the universities, that's University of Aberdeen in Scotland, said that the acquisition of the sculpture of the Oba was extremely immoral, and this whole process of repatriation and restitution, I'm wondering if you think it is enough in itself to, bring closure for the people of Edo State with regards to the incidents that led to them being stolen in the first place?
Well, a number of issues have been discussed on this matter. But clearly speaking, I just want to let the world know that the circumstances under which they were looted amounts to what we call colonial injustice. Invasion, conquest, plundering, looting, burning. I mean, that's unfortunate. However, we're taken away they were sold. Once they got to London, they were sold to other countries. Today, Germany wants to return over 1,000 of those artworks. Germany did not partake in the looting. The Germans bought. Americans bought. Other European countries bought. So if you look at all of this, it's the looted heritage of Benin. Our interest now today is that this looted heritage should return back to Benin. Don't forget, in 2002, the museums in Europe and North America, United States and Canada, had a meeting where they agreed that all of these artifacts, they are the heritage of humanity, so they can be kept anywhere. We are concerned about their own interest. Our concern is, let us have our artifacts back. Let us build the Benin Royal Museum. Let us work with the Oba of Benin and ensure that we preserve all of these objects for generations unborn. It will tell our story, it will tell our history, our heritage, our culture, our civilization. We are a people of a great past. Presently, we are great. In future, we will remain great. That is what these artifacts will tell the world about.
All right, Professor, this seeming controversy back home has generated lots of concern around Europe and the Americas. In fact, the Museum of the University of Aberdeen in Scotland, the officials there have said that this might delay the return of the artifacts back to Benin Kingdom, or Benin as a whole, or even back to Nigeria, because the issue of who is going to be in the custody of it, and when we return them, and to whom are we giving this back to, is causing how concerned?
Exactly. See?
Yes.
No. You see, it's not an issue. The palace has huge storage for those artifacts until they are displayed in the museum. Don't forget the key word. These artifacts were displaced from Benin, the palace of the Oba of Benin, the royal court of Benin, and displayed in Europe. So we can then again remove them from Europe, whether from Aberdeen or anywhere else, and return them back to the royal court of Benin. It is not compulsory that you are returning the artifacts immediately to a museum that has not been built. But the palace has its own storage system that can take care of these artifacts, protect them for the period when the museum will be built.
Yeah, but Professor, are you concerned? Are you concerned that this debate could delay the return? Apart from even Aberdeen, the other countries too, from Germany and from France, from the UK, from America, and all of that.
Now, I want to ask a question. What happened to the project of the Benin Royal Museum that was proposed in 2018 and to be completed in 3 years? What happened to it? So we must begin to look at issues related to some kind of politics, whether or not the British, for example, they still want to continue with the colonial power relations with African peoples and Benin in particular, or we're looking at some legal framework that has to do with ownership and non-ownership of the artifacts, or to look at the museum, the artifacts as heritage of humanity, and therefore be kept somewhere. If they are returned today or tomorrow, that's not the issue. Who is the owner of this artifact? It belongs to the Oba of Benin. 2, we are prepared in Benin City to support the building of the Benin Royal Museum at a location that we all agree that the museum should be hosted. But beyond all of this is the fact that when they come, first, it goes to the federal government, whether it goes to Abuja. From there, it comes straight to Benin, because we now have a federal authority superimposing like a superstructure over the Benin authority. Benin today, the Benin Kingdom today is part of Nigeria. So the first legal authority to receive them will be the Nigerian government, which is the National Council for Museums and Monuments, and thereafter return to the Oba of Benin. It has no other place to travel to other than the palace of the Royal Benin.
Professor, there is an elephant in the room that you have not mentioned, and that is Governor Obaseki.
Which one is that?
If Governor Obaseki was in sync with the royal palace, there won't be this controversy. And why would the governor be standing in the way of a royal resolve if there is no other factor than the fact that he has a historical grudge with the royal family? If not, is it finance? Because some people have said even, what they call it, that museums do not pay as much as many people think it does. That you actually pay to get the museum rather than get money from the museum. So it is the issue of the financial benefits are even secondary to the cultural and even spiritual significance of having the museum. If the governor was out of the way, would there be this controversy?
Thank you so much. You see, number one, listen carefully. Number one, the building or the design, the concept, and the building of the Benin Royal Museum was to be supported by one, the Consortium of European Museums, two, Edo State Government, three, the Royal Court of Benin, four, the federal government of Nigeria. Now, what has happened to all of these proposals? It's not a question of elephant in the house or in the room or whatever, which has to do with Obaseki and Oba Benin. Let me make it clear that there is no controversy, there is no conflict between the governor, Obaseki himself, and the Royal Court of Benin. There's no controversy. They have no problem at all. The issue now is looking clearly at a particular problem and finding solution to that problem. We have artifacts looted from the Royal Court of Benin. The debates on repatriation and restitution has been going on. Now they have agreed to return and pay restitution. Who takes responsibility? Honestly speaking, is the Oba of Benin. My worry is that when you bring in people who have established a trust, it's a financial institution. A trust is a financial institution. Restoration Legacy Trust of Nigeria. And you are asking the owner of the property to become a partner with you. My brother, that's an insult. The Oba of Benin. We won't tolerate it. It doesn't really matter what it means. There's no fight. There's no elephant. They just have a misunderstanding. I don't know. I don't want to talk about other issues has to do with the money that they're expecting from the repatriation or it's that's not the fault. People are interested in. That's not the issue. The issue clearly defined is that I stand with the Netherlands proposal, and there's nothing anybody can do about that. Let us go to the books. If for 3 years they couldn't do anything because of coronavirus, they could start again now. That's all. A MOA on its own can stand. It's an excellent project. It's a concept that has come to stay. If you have visited the major cities in Europe, I lived in Hamburg for over 8 years. There are several museums in Hamburg. I was in Vienna. There are many museums in Vienna. I was in New York. I was in Washington, D.C. There are several museums. We can have many museums rather than National Museum at Ring Road, the Benin Royal Museum. We can also have a MOA in Benin. That is plus in terms of cultural history and development. But let everyone take what it belongs to him or her, not to begin to fight others over what belongs to them. That's my point, sir.
All right, Professor, in all of this, what is the role of the National Commission for Museums and Monuments in this regard? Although we know that the artifacts belong to the palace of the Oba of Benin, or what is the role of the National Commission for Museums and Monuments that is the custodian of museum-related issues in Nigeria in this regard?
Their first role is to work out a legal framework for the repatriation and restitution. That's their first role, the legal framework. Because here, European museums are saying, look, these are the heritage of humanity, they can keep them. We are saying, no, you stole them, you are thieves. You looted them, you should return them. So there must be a legal framework for the repatriation and restitution. National Commission for Museums and Monuments should work that one out. Two, when it comes to the preservation of these artifacts, the National Commission for Museums and Monuments, they have the expertise, they have the specialists, they have the curators that are able to advise government and advise the royal palace on the display of these artifacts in an exhibition in a museum that will be built. Thirdly, they also be in a better position to advise government, to advise the palace.
Professor, are you still there?
This is called the education aspect of museum responsibility. You have to organize a series of seminars and workshops to educate the people on the relevance of this museum so that they don't want to steal them, they don't want to loot them. You know, people are curious that, oh, a particular artwork that was made about 600 years ago cannot give you
So much been said there by Professor Benson Osadolo with regards to the return of the mini artifact. Unfortunately, network did not allow him to wrap up his thoughts with regards to that. But we must thank you, Professor of History and former Acting Vice Chancellor from the University of Benin, Professor Benson Osadolo, for your time on the program. Gentlemen.
Ambrose Ali University.
Ambrose Ali University. All right.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank
you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Well, I'd love to ask more questions, but we're out of time.
Yes, time is a constraint as we speak. But he spoke into so many issues that, you know, we were having a conversation on yesterday. And, you know, he brought light to it.
Yeah, he was able to illuminate a lot about the historical aspects of it, especially his own involvement in various conferences. They are up to the Benin Dialogue meeting, and then the one in Netherlands, the one in Hamburg, Vienna, Hamburg, Austria. Hamburg is in Germany, sorry, and then Vienna, Austria, and all of that. I think he's unwilling to push the finger
on the
nose of the governor because he has said everything to show that it is Obaseki that is standing in the way. And he has also said that, you know, the royalty is forever, but government is temporary. So it's a conflict between the Republican and the royal. And we want to see who will last. You know, that I think it's trying to be very, very nice and cautious with that thing.
Well, I believe he wouldn't want to go into any further controversies around this issue.
Absolutely.
And if you look at it actually deeply, the issues are very straight. The issues are actually very straightforward because these artifacts, they were stolen
it's
from the...
It's supposed to be a non-issue in the first place.
Exactly, it's a non-issue.
People forget that the people don't see them, people outside see them as artworks, they see them as gods.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
You know,
it's
people are trying to save their gods, and you are trying to make play
Make money
out of
out of
it.